Good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon, sir.
I should say good evening, actually. I want to start by saying that I appreciate the efforts of the folks involved in coming up with this amendment, which is now the bill, and especially give kudos to the ranking member of the Transportation Committee, Representative O'Day, for all the work that he has invested in it. But I'll say that the fact that the reason why we're here is not a secret. The reason that we are here is because the bill that was passed 2 years ago is simply unworkable. We are here only because the Department of Motor Vehicles is requesting us to be here to make changes to the existing law so that they can actually manage the Motor Vehicle Department efficiently and get around some of the problems that were created when this law was passed. We have long lines at our DMVs, and we have concerns being raised about unverifiable documents and how they should be received, reviewed, and authenticated by DMV officials. All of this brings me back to the debate that we had in this very chamber 2 years ago. And I see Representative Candelaria over there, and I remember vividly having a lengthy conversation with him on this exact subject. And I remember us talking about utility bills and emails and birth certificates, on and on. I remember saying that, in fact, I doubted whether or not I would be able to get a fishing license, even though I'm an American citizen, with the documents that we had put in the original law. I also remember being told that the number one and overriding reason that we needed this legislation was because undocumented drivers were driving on our streets and highways without insurance, and that somehow granting them the legitimacy in the form of a driver's license was going to solve all that. Now, I heard the good ranking member ask a couple of questions, but I might want to just tread over this very quickly. He said that to date there have been 1,846 licenses issued. But just out of curiosity, I'd like to ask Representative Candelaria, if I might, how many applicants have there been thus far, keeping in mind that the law was effective as of January 1st of this year? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Candelaria.
Through you, Madam Speaker, we had approximately 45,000 applicants.
Representative Sampson.
I am really sorry. I did not hear the answer. Can the gentleman repeat it, please? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Would you mind repeating yourself, sir?
No. Through you, Madam Speaker, we have actually appointments. We have 45,639. Through you.
Representative Sampson.
Wow. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks for the answer. So 45,000 applicants so far. That's interesting to me because I was going by a News 8 article that I have that came out in December, and they talked about 20,000 applicants in the very first week. So I guess I have a couple of questions. We ascertained from the good ranking members' questions that there is no documentation about how many of these folks have purchased insurance. But I'd like to ask, are they being asked at the time that they are applying for a driver's license whether or not they are obtaining insurance? Or are they asked to provide proof of insurance at any point in that transaction? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Candelaria.
Through you, Madam Speaker, not that I'm aware.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks again to the gentleman for his answer. So I guess the bottom line is that while we have 45,000 plus applicants and so far a relatively small number, 1,800 and change, of these licenses being issued, we're not sure whether or not any of these folks are purchasing insurance. And that's a concern of mine because if we remember 2 years ago, that's what we said we were after. I'll just simply state that this is a bad policy. Before voting in favor of the bill, which was the strike-all amendment that was just before us, that makes significant changes, and I'm not going to deny that the changes are positive. I think that they're a vast improvement over the current law, although I will say that when I heard raised seal birth certificate, I didn't know if I was supposed to go, ooh, because, in fact, I don't know that that's a big deal or a proof of anything. But I feel like before any of us go forward and vote in favor of this bill, I think it's incumbent upon me to explain why I think this is a bad policy and in my case, I'm going to offer an amendment shortly in an effort to repeal it. First and foremost is the insurance issue. There is absolutely no proof whatsoever that this will reduce uninsured drivers in our state. The fact is that there has never been any restriction on anyone buying insurance, whether or not they were a citizen or not. I have been an insurance agent for over 20 years. I've sold many, many auto insurance policies. I'm not actively in the business, but it hasn't changed. And I can remember many instances where we sold policies to folks that did not possess a driver's license, people that were too old to drive or too young to drive. But they are more than capable of purchasing an auto insurance policy. Because, in fact, in Connecticut, the liability insurance that you buy is to protect you from the liability that arises out of your ownership of the car and not driving it. So there's no prohibition on anyone purchasing insurance, and that was brought up many times during the debate 2 years ago and many times by the insurance industry since. Second, I would say that it defies logic to believe that somehow someone who is willing to ignore our immigration laws and every other law that is involved in this particular policy, including driving without insurance, driving without a license, how can we expect that folks that are willing to disobey those laws are somehow going to go out and get insurance because now they have access to a driver's license? Seriously, think about that for a moment. Do we really think that that's going to change the opinion of the law requiring insurance? I don't think so. Third, I would say that there's little doubt. Well, in fact, that may be too aggressive a statement, but I will say that certainly this drive-only driver's license could be a gateway document. And I would say that's going to be the case whether that's its intention or not. I'm sure that there are other speakers that are going to follow me that will address this concern. But I would say that it's clear that this drive-only driver's license is going to be used for far more things than just driving. And I'm including everything from using it as other forms of identification, including purchasing cigarettes, liquor, access in our society. And the big danger, and while a lot of folks might not be willing to stand up and say it, I'm very concerned that somehow it might be used to be involved in our voting process for our elected officials. There's a reason why we have not historically, as a nation or our 50 states, issued identification to those folks who are in the country illegally. It is precisely to make it difficult for them to integrate into our society. And there's good reasons for that. Now, of course, there's people who are going to try and turn this into something else. But this is not an anti-immigration rant that I am on. What I am concerned about is the same thing that people said this bill was about, which is about public safety, people having insurance. There are good reasons why we should revisit this policy, especially if we are concerned about the health and safety of our citizens. The fact is that we have no way to document people's criminal records if they come from another country. If you're concerned about the safety of our citizens, you want to make sure that the people that come into our country are documented and we know what their background is. And we have no way to document their health history either. You can look at a graph of the entire country, and you can look at where the most immigration takes place, and you will find out that is also where the most recent outbreaks of things like the measles, a disease that it was purported to have been eradicated in 2010. Cases are on the rise. What this argument about is the rule of law, nothing else. The fact is that every person in this room is the descendant of an immigrant, and that includes me. If it was up to me, I would open the doors of America to Connecticut wide open, and I would get as many people in here as I possibly could. The thing is, I would use a proper process where there was a line that people actually followed. But we have long established policies for a reason. And it is precisely for those things that I mentioned, to protect us from criminals and from disease. Letting those folks that have not obeyed the law and take a spot ahead of those folks that have taken the proper process, for me, is just plain wrong. This policy makes our state a magnet for illegal immigration, and consequently, we will be subject to the increased dangers that I just mentioned. For all of these reasons, and because I believe that if we're really concerned about making sure that we get uninsured drivers off the road, I'm going to offer an amendment. Madam Speaker, the clerk has an amendment. It is LCO 7547. Maybe I would be allowed to call it and summarize it.
Will the clerk please call LCO 7547, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule B.
LCO 7547, designated House Amendment Schedule B and offered by Representative Sampson.
The representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is the objection to summarization? Is the objection? Hearing none, Representative Sampson, you may proceed with summarization, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is a very simple amendment. What I'm attempting to do here is have us take a step back. What we should have done 2 years ago, if we were truly concerned about the impact of illegal immigration and how it relates to uninsured drivers in our state, then we should have studied it. We should have found out exactly what it would take to make sure that we conquered this problem of uninsured drivers. So this amendment does exactly that. It creates a study that says that we're going to ask the Motor Vehicle Department to investigate why we have a problem with uninsured drivers and exactly what we need to do to correct it. And they are supposed to report back to us in a timely manner with some suggestions that hopefully we could adopt. And in the meantime, this bill also repeals the existing law, where I believe we are foolishly issuing documents to those folks that are coming into the country illegally at great risk to our citizens. I move adoption, Madam Speaker, and I would appreciate a roll call when the vote is held. Thank you.
The question before the chamber is on a roll call vote. All those in favor of roll call, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. No. The record 20% has been met. When the vote will be taken by roll call. Would you care to remark further on the amendment? Would you care to remark further on the amendment?
Madam.
Representative Kupchak.
Not on the amendment, ma'am.
Representative Lavielle.
Not on the amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Representative Candelaria.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the gentleman for his amendment, but at this particular time, we will be turning the clock backwards. And really, a program that has been effective, where the department has been able to function with this drive-only program so effectively, and issue driver's license to individuals that currently don't have a driver's license, has been working very well, from my understanding. Now, to say that these individuals do not have insurance, currently we don't ask for proof of insurance of anyone. And the assumption is that these individuals are acquiring insurance for their vehicles. If we recall the debate 2 years ago, we remember that I clearly talked about how these people were taken advantage of because other individuals were registering the vehicles on their behalf and purchasing insurance on their behalf. And it was vivid in my mind how we talked about that and the impact that had on their lives, but they were so responsible that they wanted to ensure that their vehicles were registered. And for that, Madam Speaker, I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Would you remark further on the amendment before us? Would you remark further on the amendment before us? If not, would staff and guests please come to the well of the House? Will the members please take your seats? The machine will be opened.
House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber, please. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber. LCO number 5747, designated House Amendment B. Total number voting 143. Necessary for adoption 72. Those voting yea 62. Those voting nay 81. Absent and not voting 8.